Good morning, dear friends, dear participants of the Marathon for the Benefit of the World. We continue our program, and today our guest is His Holiness Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Maharaj. He doesn't need to be introduced, but as per our regulations, we'll do it. His Holiness came across Gaudiya Vaishnavism back in 1978. In 1989-1995, he lived in Sweden, where he managed translations of the Bhakti Vijnana Book Trust books into Russian and the other languages. In 1995, Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Maharaj returned back to Russia and headed the community of Russian devotees. In 2001, he was the first among the Russian ISKCON members to receive sannyasa. In 2005, His Holiness got right to have disciples and became the first initiating guru in Russia. He has more than 3,000 disciples, including the English-speaking ones. His Holiness established Japa meditation school, and more than 1,000 devotees receive systematic education there. In 2010, Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Maharaj was awarded a third-degree medal for professionalism and business reputation. He is the author of many books. His art of preaching is legendary, and thousands of people are grateful to Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Maharaj for shifting to a new level of their life. Thank you very much, Goswami Maharaj, for your time. Over to you. I will now demonstrate the professionalism or the third degree.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashta Prayesh Vabhadrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavad-gita Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Yam Pravrajantamanopetamapeta Pityam Dvaipayana Virahakatara Juhava Putreti Tanmayatayo Dharavobinus Tam Sarvabhuta Hridayam Tosmi.
Hare Krishna. I'm very happy to take part in your marathon. Although myself, I'm more of a sprinter than the marathon runner. I'm giving one lecture. And our marathon is approaching a very important stage, the 10th canto. And today we'll discuss Canto 9. Therefore, I will explain the meaning of one very important verse from Canto 9 of Srimad-Bhagavatam, and also will try to introduce, to give you the overview of Canto 9 and explain what is the meaning of this verse, or song, or of this canto, Canto 9, and how it leads us to Canto 10, both from the narration point of view and from the philosophical point of view, how they are linked. So we'll read text 64 from chapter 4, Canto 9 of Srimad-Bhagavatam, called Ambarisha Maharaja offended by Nurvasa Muni.
Madbhaktai sadubirvina Sriyam chadyanti kim brahman Yesham gatiraham param Nahamatma namashase Madbhaktai sadubirvina Sriyam chadyanti kim brahman Yesham gatiraham param
Not I, transcendental bliss, desire with my devotees, with the saintly persons. Without them, all my 6 opulences, also the Supreme, or Brahmana, of whom destination I am, the ultimate. Translation. O best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulences. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is self-sufficient, but to enjoy his transcendental bliss, he requires the cooperation of his devotees. In Vrindavana, for example, although Lord Krishna is full in himself, he wants the cooperation of his devotees, like the cowherd boys and the gopis, to increase his transcendental bliss. Such pure devotees, who can increase the pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are certainly most dear to him. Not only does the Supreme Personality of Godhead enjoy the company of his devotees, but because he is unlimited, he wants to increase his devotee unlimitedly. Thus, he descends to the material world to induce the non-devotees and rebellious living entities to return home, back to Godhead. He requests them to surrender unto him because, unlimited as he is, he wants to increase his devotees unlimitedly. The Krishna consciousness movement is an attempt to increase the number of pure devotees of the Supreme Lord more and more. It is certain that a devotee who helps in his endeavor to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes indirectly a controller of the Supreme Lord. Although the Supreme Lord is full of 6 opulences, he does not feel transcendental bliss without his devotees. An example that may be cited in this regard is that if a very rich man does not have sons in a family, he does not feel happiness. Indeed, sometimes a rich man adopts a son to complete his happiness. The science of transcendental bliss is known to the pure devotee. Therefore, the pure devotee is always engaged in increasing the transcendental happiness of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Madbhaktai sadubirvina Sriyam chatyanti kim brahman desham gatir aham para.
O the best of the Brahmanas, without saintly persons for whom I am the only destination, I do not desire to enjoy my transcendental bliss and my supreme opulences.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimad Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pashtata Deshikarine Vanchaka Upataro Vesya Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Ajanulambita Pujo Nakavada Sankirtana Kittaro Kamala Etaksha Vishwambaro Dvijaro Yugadharma Palu Vande Jagat Priya Karo Karunavatar Yantah Pravisya Mamavachi Mamam Prasuttam Sanjeevaya Dekila Shakti Darasvadam Nanyam Shahasta Charana Shravana Pagadi Pranannamo Bhagavate Shayati Svasyasti Vishwasya Kala Prasida Tam Jayantu Bhutani Shivam Vitu Manasya Badaram Vajatat Padokshachit Aveshyati No Mati Atyahai Hare Krishna.
Once again, Hare Krishna to everyone. So we are reading Canto 9 of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And Canto 9 of Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is clear from this canto itself, it starts with a question of Maharaja Parikshit, or perhaps a statement of Maharaja Parikshit, where he says, "My Lord Shukadeva Goswami, you have explained in detail about the ruling of different manus and the wonderful deeds they reveal, O the Lord. I'm very lucky that I've heard all this from you." That was a free translation. Manvantara
Yaktoktani srutani me viryani ananta viryasya harestatra kritanicha.
In other words, saying this verse, Maharaja Parikshit determines the topic of Canto 9 of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Canto 9 is dedicated to the most important topic which is described in Srimad-Bhagavatam in general, which is Isha Anukatha. What does the Lord do when he comes here to the material world? Isha Anukatha is stories about the different Krishna's avatars, about his incarnations, when he comes here and plays here with his devotees. Why does he come here? What does he do when he comes here? Why does he behave like a normal human being and has some desires and kills demons and is kind to his devotees? What does he do in general? All this is the topic of Canto 9, Isha Anukatha. And the point, the meaning of Canto 9 is to make us understand that the Lord himself, and not his some partial incarnation or his lower incarnation, is coming here. It's a very important principal moment, because we all are Mayavadi. Somewhere deep inside, some more so or less so, but if we scratch the surface, the Mayavadi nature, it will manifest. And periodically this Mayavadi nature is revealed, and we don't even realize this ourselves. Like the first disciples of Srila Prabhupada, when he was smashing the Mayavadis in front of them, he was asked once, his disciples thought that Mayavadi are some people in India who offended Srila Prabhupada, and he had a childhood trauma. That's why they thought maybe Srila Prabhupada is moved by them so much, and he continues to smash them. Here in America there are no Mayavadis, but he continues to smash them on and on. And his disciples could not understand why does he do that, why he hates them so much. And once they asked a loud question, Srila Prabhupada, who are Mayavadi? Why are you paying so much attention to them? And Srila Prabhupada looked at them and said, "You are Mayavadi." And this is absolutely fair towards all the listeners of this lecture and also the narrator of this lecture. Somewhere inside, if we dig a little bit deeper into the subconsciousness, the concept of Mayavadi will be revealed. Why? Because eventually we don't want to surrender to the Lord. We want to maintain our individualities, and Mayavadi is a great concept to think that we are which helps us to think that we are spiritual, think highly elevated, and not surrender to anyone, because we think we are gods ourselves. And the point of Mayavadi believe in God. They don't deny God. I don't mean the modern Mayavadi who don't know who they believe in, but the classical Mayavadi, beginning with Shankaracharya, they recognize God, that he comes here as an avatara. This is a very high level of Mayavadi. We are this category of Mayavadi. We are not some third-rate Mayavadi of the third rank. We are the first-rate Mayavadi. We believe in the Lord, that He exists, that He comes here. But volens nolens, we sometimes ask ourselves, is this Lord in the full meaning of the word? The first-rate Mayavadi believe that the Lord may come here, but the concept of the Lord from their point of view is the lower concept. Yes, the concept of the Lord deserves to be there, say the Mayavadi, but eventually impersonal understanding, they describe Him impersonally, while the Lord who comes here and plays with His devotees and takes different forms, as Narasimha, or as a fish, or as a tortoise, or some other forms, and that's a lower incarnation of the Lord, they think, which for our spiritual progress, which should be taken into account, because we are not in Sattva Guna yet, but this is a certain step, but eventually, seriously, this shouldn't be taken into account. As Srila Prabhupada, one of his favorite statements was the statement of Dr. Radhakrishna that we should surrender not to Krishna, but to something impersonal inside of Krishna. We should surrender, but not Krishna. We shouldn't surrender to a personality, because we see Krishna and we see that he steals, lies. How can we surrender to an imperfect personality? We as Mayavadi have this impersonal concept, in inverted commas, of a perfect God. And a lot of problems emerge because of these difficulties which are sitting inside of our unconsciousness, subconsciousness. The topic of Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is described in Canto 9 and also in Canto 8, but mainly in Canto 9, and it's very important, because if we understand how it is described here, that God Himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, with all His opulences and wealth, He comes here and plays, has His pastimes here, and sometimes in the form of a simple cowherd boy. He does something that the Lord shouldn't do. And if we understand this, we will understand Canto 10. Otherwise, we will be reading Canto 10 as Mayavadi read it. We'll be nodding our heads and saying, "Oh, so cute. Oh, it's nice. What a nice Krishna." We will not understand that it's the Lord Himself, and that the Lord Himself plays in the Vrindavana. That's the point. And eventually, as it is explained by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur at the beginning of Canto 9, he says that Srimad-Bhagavatam is, the meaning is, Canto 9 has three goals. First of all, to increase bhakti or devotion. Secondly, to increase the degree of renunciation from this world. And thirdly, to give people vijnana or live experience of the Lord. Quite serious goals. And in order for this to happen, for us to read Canto 9 and get these three goals, achieve these goals, so our devotion or our desire to serve to the Lord increase, that our renunciation to the Lord, or let's say detachment to this world, from this world, would increase, and also for us to get the real experience, so that bhakti stops being a theory and becomes a reality. To be able to do this, we have to understand what happens when the Lord comes here in different avatars, and why He comes here initially. What is the reason? As Joseph Brodsky said, in the constancy of this relation is the basic mechanics of Christmas. In his understanding, Herod reigns, but the stronger he is, the more sure, the more certain the wonder. In the constancy of this relation is the basic mechanics of Christmas. And this is the problem. If we think that the Lord comes here to punish the villains, we downplay him. Which means that automatically we give a role to the Lord somewhere in the spiritual hierarchy, but not at the very top of it. At the top, there is this impersonal Brahman, which would not come which will not condescend to us and kill the villains, punish them. What we are doing is we are putting the Lord somewhere in the intermediate level, but the Lord is somewhere up there at the top. Some time ago, I was struck by this concept when I was passing through the St. Paul's Cathedral in Vatican in Rome, and I was walking along the path. There was the statue of Michelangelo, the Mother of God who praying for Christ. There were some portraits of saints, popes, and I was walking all the way to the main point of it. And what I saw a dove with the olive branch. This is the symbol of the Holy Spirit. So, in fact, what this whole cathedral is teaching us, what is its philosophy, is we are walking through all these passions and everything, and look at the saints, and who do we come to eventually? To a dove with an olive branch, and we'll live with this dove forever. So we'll be in this, let's say, impersonal Brahman. So, once again, we have to understand very well that what happens in Canto 9, when the Lord comes here, and why He comes here. And when He comes here, he doesn't defile himself, he does not come in contact with the modes of material nature. What are the objections of Mayavadi? Why? First of all, why does he need to come here? For why a transcendental Lord would descend to this material world, which is not even real? Why would he do that? A serious thing. In reality, a lot of people don't believe that the Lord can come here because they think that if the Lord comes here, then he belittles his dignity. And he comes in contact with the gunas of the modes of material nature. Moreover, when he comes here, he starts to get engaged into the matters of this world, and when he does, he can't simply come here and sit down like Buddha somewhere, close his eyes and say, "This is me." No, he engages himself into the affairs of this world, starts to interact with people, with the living beings, kills someone, rewards someone, hugs someone. Hiranyakashipu, he ripped his chest and put his guts on himself. What's going on? How can this transcendental Lord behave like that? At first he puts on somebody's guts, then puts somebody on the knee and starts to stroke him. So the Lord favors one and dislikes the others. So how can an unworldly Lord behave like that? That's one objection. So he comes here and belittles his dignity. Moreover, Krishna says that himself. Krishna says that himself. So what's the conclusion? Krishna is not Lord. Yeah, he's Lord, but he's Ishvara, but he's not a transcendental Lord. Because he very specifically engaged in the affairs of the others. And what does he do in Kurukshetra? He had some favorites, Pandavas there. He took their side, and Duryodhana was killed. We feel sorry for Duryodhana, because we are impersonalists. And sometimes we feel sorry for him. He was such a good king. He tried, he did his best, and he's lying now, and he was unfairly killed. His hip was broken, poor man. Once again, if we do not understand the Lord in Canto 9, and there are strange stories in Canto 9, there are a lot very strange stories which are very difficult to comprehend by the rational minds of the people of the 21st century. If we don't understand it properly, then we won't understand Canto 10. That's why through Canto 9 we have to not just pass through it, we have to live through it, we have to take part in every avatar of the Lord, in all of his pastimes, so that bhakti will increase and renunciation would also increase, and that the Lord appears. Let's systematically formulate all the objections which we can come across. So I've already mentioned it. We'll just mention them again. The first one is, it's not the Lord himself who comes here. This is his kind of first lower incarnation. And the answer is given by Srila Jiva Goswami. And we should understand very well this non-standard answer. If we speak about the Lord, that he is a personality, and the personality means the one who acts in this world, who has energies, then everything the Lord does, when he does it himself, is the manifestation of his internal nature. In other words, whatever the Lord does here is not the manifestation of the modes of material nature, which are beyond him. It's the manifestation of his Svarupa. And when the Lord comes in the form of tortoise, we should understand that this is his Svarupa. It's part of his Svarupa, part of his spiritual reality. And this is already difficult to comprehend. It's not some temporary form that the Lord takes. Like sometimes people who don't know the philosophy, especially the people beyond our tradition, they start to laugh at the Lord, saying, look at the Lord taking all these shapes, forms. I was reading about one researcher who said, Shiva, yes, he is the Lord. We can understand that, but Vishnu is a sort of a werewolf. He always takes some sort of forms. No, these forms are part of his Svarupa. Each of these forms has eternal associates, who exchange love and communicate with these forms. Nrisimhadev, Ramachandra, Kurmadev, Matsya, Avatara, all of them are eternal forms. It's part of his Svarupa. And Srila Jiva Goswami, based on Srimad-Bhagavatam, proves this. Any deeds of the Lord are part of his Svarupa and not manifestation of the modes of material nature, which Krishna puts on like his clothes. No, it's part of him. It's him, he himself. That's why people worship him. There are Shalagram Shilas. The Lord can take any form. He can manifest in many kinds of forms, and he can prove it. He says that I can come here. Nobody has the right to say, no, you can't come here. But if we say that this is the Lord himself, then we have other problems, which we need to answer properly. The first problem we encounter is, if this is the Lord himself, why does he behave like that? Why does he kind of kills the non-devotees and favors the pious? Why he interferes with the affairs, being so transcendental as a Lord? Once again, how can we imagine a Lord? How would he, if the Lord came here and just sat here and showing us what we need to do? All we need to do is just sit down next to him and sit and do nothing else. No, he actively engages. He reveals his active social position. Like the devotees are sometimes scolded for them trying to engage into some social activities. And Mayavadi, among the devotees, say, no, we mustn't. If you do other things, if you engage into a social active position, you will lower the transcendental nature of bhakti. But the Lord behaves exactly like that. He engages, he takes active social position. He takes sides. And this is the first objection. The second objection is, okay, let's suppose that he takes an active part in the deeds of this world, which may mean that he actively takes the gunas of this material nature. He can take sattva guna, so he is for those who are in sattva guna and against those in raja guna or tama guna. Another problem is that derives from this is that he came here, accepted sattva guna, and he is on one of the sides. He stopped being unpretentious. It's a very important objection, and we have to understand what we should answer. Why is pretentious? Why does he love his devotees? unconsciously we have doubts. Maybe he lacks something. Maybe he's not Atmarama, maybe he depends on his devotees. Why we love communicating with people who are close to us? Because we receive something from them, we give them something so that they can, that we can get something from them. So the Lord comes here, He gives something to the devotees to get something from them, which means that He is not self-sufficient. How can we worship such a Lord? Once again, to understand Canto 10 of Srimad-Bhagavatam, we have to understand that Krishna in Vrindavan is the highest object for worship. And only in communication with Him I can become absolutely happy and leap beyond this world. And for that, we need to go through Canto 9 of our marathon distance. And the answers are. So that was the puzzle, and now we'll reveal the answers. So how do we answer all these doubts, objections? The first thing we say is, yes, the Lord comes here Himself. It's not some lower incarnation of Him. But why He comes here? He comes here not to support the activities of this world. Sometimes people say, yes, He's a good guy, He is on the side of the good people. But internally, they downgrade the Lord. The Lord comes here not to punish the villains. If the Lord wants to punish the villains, He doesn't need to come here. All He can do is send the coronavirus here. Coronavirus can do it easily. And for that, the Lord doesn't need to come here. He can send some illness, and all the villains will die from this illness. That's what He says in Padma Purana. There is a famous verse. In order to punish all the villains in all universe, I don't even need a muhurta. Muhurta means 1 moment. Or sometimes it means 40 minutes. It doesn't really matter, 1 moment or 40 minutes. He can blink, and all the villains will get a coronavirus or some kind of smallpox or other incurable disease against which nobody has vaccine yet, and nobody can do anything. So the Lord comes not to do that. When He kills the villains, He says, Krishna saying that, He does His incarnation clear to us. He explains it on a comprehensible language, because people are programmed. There are villains who should be punished, and who are they? They are the ones against me. Why does the Lord come here? To come to support the pious people. And who are the pious people? Are those who I see in my mirror regularly. There is only one pious person, so the Lord comes here, He will punish everyone. The Lord does not care about the villains and does not care about the sadhus who think that they are the sadhus. The Lord has nothing to do with the pious people who think they are pious, and nothing to do with the villains who are villains or maybe don't think that they are villains. He doesn't care about them. How should we interpret all those events? If we look at Krishna Avatara, Rama Avatara, Rama kills the demons, Krishna kills the demons. How does Rama kill the demons? In Janasthana, he shoots 1 arrow, and 14,000 demons are killed with 1 arrow. He does it playfully. He does it during the breaks between his main duties. He comes here not to kill the villains. As Srila Jiva Goswami explains, I will give you this example a bit later, but he does it he does it because he already came here, so he is doing his main deeds. Why not do some other secondary affairs as well? Yeah, it's fun. Let's do it. Let's kill the villains. Like a secondary affair. But in reality, he has nothing to do with them because he's transcendental and he's interested in spiritual nature. And that's why he comes to his devotees. That's the first thing. We should clearly understand why the Lord comes here, for whom he comes here. He comes here for his devotees, but not, unfortunately, not for us. Not for those who are trying to be devotees. And he explains it clearly in this verse when he says, Sadhu Bir. In the previous verse, he also said about his bhaktas. He always emphasizes, when he talks about his bhaktas, he calls them sadhus. It's very important for who does the Lord come here. There are devotees. We are also devotees in a way. We are kind of, as there is no other expression for us, no other term. We can call ourselves devotees. Why not? We are trying. We are doing our best. We want to. But Krishna in this verse, in the series of 5 verses, even more verses, from 63 to 68. There are 6 verses. So in 6 verses, Krishna glorifies his devotees, and not only his devotees, but the relationships with him, where Krishna explains why he comes here, for who he comes here. Krishna constantly says, sadhu, sadhu, many times. Who is the sadhu? Sadhu is the one. What are the minimum level at which I can hope that Krishna will come to me? He will hear my prayers and interfere with my affairs. And maybe even I will see him as an avatar. Who knows? Maybe this is possible. For that, I have to be a sadhu. And who is a sadhu? The sadhu is the one who does sadhana. That's the definition of sadhu. Sadhu is the one who does sadhana. But then who is the one I see in the mirror every morning? I'm also doing sadhana. But sadhu is the one who does sadhana, and only sadhana, and he has no other business. And this is a very important word of this verse and concept for our understanding. Sadhu is the one who has no other goals. He is the one who has only one goal, to achieve the Lord, to satisfy him, and the one who has no hypocrisy. Another explanation of sadhu is straightforward. Sad, the word sad, means achieving a goal, do something to achieve the goal, but sadhu means straightforward, not otherwise. Yes, we are devotees, we are doing sadhana, by all means, but at the same time we have some other goals. And these other goals, yes, we want to be devotees, but also we want to satisfy Krishna, yes, but we also want to have everything else. And sometimes we explain that we need this to be able to do certain things. For instance, we can give Krishna pizza every day. How otherwise will serve to Krishna if you can't offer him pizza every day or other things? But in other words, we have these other goals which in our consciousness are on the same level as the purpose to satisfy the Lord, unfortunately, or maybe on approximately the same level. And this story about Maharaja Ambarisha and Durvasa Muni, part of which we were reading, it illustrates it very well. I'm not sure I can fit my lecture in 1 hour, demonstrating the professionalism of the third rank. I'll do my best, but maybe it will not be possible, because I want to mention quite a few important moments. Once again, at the very beginning of the story, this wonderful story, which is the key story of the entire Canto 9, this is the key to the whole Canto 9 of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And this is the main story we should understand. At the very beginning of the story, where Shukadeva Goswami explained the qualities or sadhana to Ambarisha Maharaja. First of all, what is good for us? Maharaja Ambarisha did sadhana bhakti. He practiced Vaidya sadhana bhakti. He didn't practice a very highly elevated form of sadhana, which is Raganuda sadhana, spontaneous sadhana. He was specifically engaging his mind in service to the lotus feet of the Lord, and the whole story starts from this, and his speech was engaged describing Vaikuntha. He engaged his hands by washing the temple of the Lord. He engaged his ears by listening to the stories about the Lord, and etc. He engaged his eyes in looking at the Lord, the image of the Lord. And what is very important, this is the key to the whole Canto 9 of Srimad-Bhagavatam, and to everything I'm talking about now. What the last but one line. He had only one desire. He wanted to become a servant, which means that he wasn't a servant yet. It means that he had other desires. But at the same time, he had the desire to become a servant of the Lord. And it was prevailing desire, dominating desire. And at the same time, he wanted to perform. He didn't want to perform, to be led by other desires. He wasn't free from those desires. If he was free from those desires, there would be no need to say Natu Kama Kamyaya. He understood what he wanted, and sadhana becomes a sadhana when a person realizes and makes the desire to satisfy the Lord the most important in his life, and stops feeding other desires. They exist. They can't get rid of them. They're like annoying flies are always around us. We still have other desires, but if every time I have this desire appears from my subconsciousness, I would say, no, I don't. Do I need it to serve the Lord? No, and I will push it away. like an annoying fly, if I understand that all I want is to get attached to the Lord, then in this case a person becomes a sadhu. Only then he becomes honest. Another translation of the word sadhu is an honest person. Honest, sincere, for himself as well. He sees all others' desires, but he doesn't try to mask them. He doesn't try to say that my desire to serve the Lord took the shape of the form of desire for this woman because she is so pure. That's why this desire came to me, etc., etc., etc. He doesn't have these things. And Krishna says, if a person is a sadhu, if he's honest, that's for him, that's for who I come here. And the whole Canto 9 is about it, about Krishna coming here for the sake of sadhus. Because when a person has a goal, I want to attach to the Lord values this. And how does this sadhutva or quality of a sadhu manifest in Maharaja Ambarisha? Krishna talks about it in the next text. He says that, look at yourself, Brahman. In this text, he calls Durvasa Muni disapproves him as a Brahmana, scornful Brahmana. Why? Because before this, Durvasa Muni came to him and said, I'm a Brahmana, I'm a sadhu, and who are you? You are Nama Brahmani Davai Go Brahmana Hichaya Cha. You are looking after the Brahmanas, you are taking care of the sadhus. I am a Brahmana, I am a sadhu. And Krishna's mouth twists contemptuously when he says the word Brahman. And if Sanskrit had inverted commas, he would put the word Brahman in inverted commas. And he said, any person who thinks they are Brahman, they in reality are not so dear to me. I won't come for him. I won't even stir a finger for them. In this verse he says, my dear Brahmana, for you I won't do anything at all. Durvasa Muni ran over to him, having come through the entire universe. That's how strong his desire was to come to the Lord. He overcame a countless number of difficulties trying to escape from Sudarshana Chakra to be in front of the Lord. And he came to the Lord on Vaikuntha. And Krishna is looking at him and says, dear my dear, I will not do anything at all for you. Nothing at all. I don't value all the difficulties you came through to come here. I won't do anything. If you want to get the mercy, go to my devotee. Get the mercy from him. What does he mean? Why does he behave like this? He explains in the next text. And in the next text, he says that my devotees, for me, for the service to me, they are ready to sacrifice anything. And what have you done to serve me? When Maharaja Ambarish, for the sake of service for me, came across this difficulty which you created, you the fool, gave birth to this terrible demon, having pulled the hair out of your beard. You should have better pulled your entire beard. So that's what you did. You put this, you dropped this hair and on the earth, and this terrible monster appeared. And what did Maharaja Parija do? He was smiling. This terrible demon was following him, and he didn't stir, because he understood, if the Lord wants, he can protect me. What can I do? I can do nothing. And when my chakra followed you and started to... What did you do? You didn't smile. I was watching. I was watching your face. Your face was fearful. You are the so-called Brahmana who should be self-satisfied, you ran across the entire universe and started to ask for help and eventually came to me. If you want to have mercy and protection, go back to my devotee, and my chakra will escort you. And Maharaja Ambarish may be able to help you. Ask for forgiveness from him, not from me. I have nothing to do with this. My heart belongs to him. And during this moment, when the devotee gives the heart to the Lord and says, I only need you, that's the most important moment of any jiva. If a jiva comes to this moment when it can say, I don't want anything else, no one else, my heart totally belongs to you. Krishna says, maybe you want some liberation? And Jiva says, no, no. And Krishna says, okay, let's exchange hearts. If you are giving me your heart, if you are giving me your heart, I'm giving you my heart. And at this moment, a person becomes sadhu. That's what sadhu means. Often people say sadhu sangha, sadhu sangha. The three bhaktas gather together and say, we have sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha means sangha with sadhu. Who are sadhus? Sadhus are the honest people who have given everything they have to Krishna. They want nothing in exchange, and Krishna understands that I cannot give you anything in exchange, so please take my heart. Krishna says that himself. And when a person is in this position, even if he's doing Vaidya sadhana bhakti, which in reality means, what does this line mean? He wanted to. He didn't have any other desires. Everything else didn't matter to him. And for Krishna, he was ready to sacrifice anything. Like the first devotees in the Soviet Union, they were ready to any sacrifice. And some people may say, whatever they could say, but Krishna protected them personally. We have no doubt about it. That's the point of 9th Canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, which is when a person behaves like that, Krishna comes himself, and what does he do? He gives his own spiritual energy, he puts it into his heart, not Svarupa Shakti, he gives the quintessence of his spiritual energy. And when he comes here, he interacts with his bhaktas, with his own energy. Therefore, objections that we may hear from Mayavadi or some other hidden Mayavadi opponent, that's how we can reject all these objections. The Lord comes here not because he favors his devotees. He remains at Marama. He comes here not because he needs something from the devotees. He comes here so that he wants to give them something. He gives them his most confidential energy, the quintessence of his Svarupa Shakti, which is prema, love. And this quintessence starts to play in the hearts of their devotees. He placed it there, and he remains the most satisfied, because even when he depends on his devotees, and he says, I depend on my devotees. I'm not so self-independent. And here he says, I want to enjoy my own energy, which I gave them in response to this desire of theirs. In other words, if we remember a famous dialogue of Ostap Bender with someone else, morning in the morning, chairs, money in the morning, chairs in the evening. And when he was asked, but can we get chairs in the morning? And the Lord says, yes, but money, Astabandha says, yes, but money first. So when we ask the Lord, can we get prema first and give everything else later? Krishna says, yes, but money first. But to begin with, a person has to have this desire. That's all I want. I don't want anything else. And this we can get when we associate with the sadhu. We can get this state, I want to want the Lord this way. I still have other desires which are on the same level as this desire. But when we see another person like a sadhu, I don't desire this yet, but I desire to desire the same way as sadhu does. And that makes a devotee so dear to the Lord, which he mentions in text 63. He says, I depend on my bhaktas. I have no freedom and I have no independence. Sadhu took my heart. Not only I love my bhaktas, I love the devotees of my devotees. Even if a person surrendered to my devotee, he becomes dear to me because he understands where can I get bhakti from? Only from the heart of a devotee. There is no other way. All people who try to avoid personal relations with devotees with the help of different philosophies, they are self-deceiving. They don't want to surrender. Yes, I can't surrender straight away to the Lord, but who I can surrender to? I can surrender to a devotee. If a person surrenders to a devotee, then this makes him so dear to the Lord. And the Lord starts to depend on such a person. And thus we have we have defeated the objections in this powerful story that the Lord interferes with the deeds, with the activities of this world and comes here to this material world to kill the villains. No, he comes here for the devotees, and coming here for the devotees, he comes into interaction with his own energy. And what is most striking, and the point of this verse is, when he interacts with his own energy, he gets more bliss than when he simply enjoys himself. I don't want my personal bliss, my personal Svarupananda. The Lord enjoys himself, he is Atmarama, but I don't want to enjoy this without my bhaktas. I don't want to enjoy the endless opulences I have. I want to enjoy only together with my bhaktas, share this enjoyment with my bhaktas, because when I feel how my own energy, Svarupa Shakti, the quintessence of this energy, which is love, which is put into their heart, starts to play, it gives me eternal bliss. And Srila Prabhupada gives a striking example. Let's imagine a very rich person. You are a rich person, you have everything, but miss something. What do you miss? Who do you miss? A son. I don't have a son yet. I don't have someone who will say, "Ututu, ututu," who will hug you with his little hands. And you will understand that he needs you and you need him. And this is part of human psychology. This is the reflection of the psychology of the Lord. Therefore, the Lord comes here. And as Srila Jiva Goswami, I promised to give you this example. So Srila Jiva Goswami explains the main point of the Lord coming here and the side effects. He says sometimes the devotees decide to organize a large kirtan. Like today is the Radha Yatra day in Vrindavana. There will be no Radha Yatra in Puri, but the devotees in Vrindavana decided to organize Radha Yatra. So to organize a large kirtan, devotees sometimes hire professional musicians. We know that sometimes the devotees cannot play mridanga properly. They can use the pots, but not the mridangas very well. So sometimes I've seen it here in Vrindavana, the sadhus, when they want to organize a large kirtan, a big program, they hire professional musicians who will play the mridangas and karatals very well. And Srila Jiva Goswami said, why do devotees eventually want to organize this kirtan? To bring pleasure to the Lord, to please the Lord. That's their main purpose. Their heart is full, overflown with the love, and from this fullness they want to organize this kirtan to dance, to make the Lord happy, and the Lord will be happy seeing them being happy. So simultaneously a lot of people who pass by, who listen to, will get the benefit. When we go with Harinam outside to the street, all we want to achieve is to please the Lord. Everything else is a side effect. The people may stop, or some drunkard can stop and dance listening to the Harinam. This is all side effects. It's important, but side effect. And the musicians who play, the professional musicians, although they have another purpose, they come here to earn some money, they will also get benefit. So they will get the benefit, and they become so excited, they start to play even more and more, harder and harder, they come in ecstasy. And so with one action, people can achieve many goals. And similarly, the Lord, when He comes here, His main goal is to satisfy the devotees. And simultaneously, He can kill the villains, bring order, inspire people, the innocent people, so that they engage themselves in devotional service. But eventually, He comes here for sadhus, for those devotees who sacrificed everything to serve the Lord. So that's what He does, but not because of the lack of something. When as we already mentioned, some Mayavadis say that the Lord comes here because he may lack something. The Lord Himself says, I enjoy everything, I'm at Maram, I have endless opulences, but without devotees I don't want to enjoy this all, because I want to share that with the devotees. I come here not because I want to take something from them. I want to give something to the devotees, and the devotees serve me not because they want to get something from me. They serve me because they want to give something to me. And Srila Prabhupada explains the whole purport about this. Why the devotee preaches? He preaches. Because he wants other people to also give something to Krishna, and Krishna wants to give to such devotees something else. So it's all selfless relationships. It's not like here when we get into a relationship to get something. It's totally selfless, based on love. Love is the energy which makes the heart full.
Обречены жить в материальном мире и быть попрошайками здесь в материальном мире, все время пытаться
Because in this material world, people live on the basis of hardly poverty, stinginess. No, the Lord says how everybody can become part of his bliss and opulences. This explains in the verse. I don't want to enjoy myself. If a person became a sadhu, if he became my bhakta, I want to share my wealth with him and my bliss, and I give it to him. I give this energy of bliss to my devotee and enjoy it together with him. And Srila Prabhupada explains this in Vrindavana. Although Krishna is self-sufficient, in order to increase his bliss, he is seeking for the association with the cowherd boys. And how can... the last thing I will mention is how can we become sadhu here? We can become sadhu, and Srila Prabhupada explains this very well in the purport. He becomes a sadhu when he expresses compassion to others. My desire to achieve Krishna here is manifest in my compassion to other people. I want them also to achieve Krishna. That's why I preach, and Srila Prabhupada dedicates his whole purport to this. This is our desire to satisfy Krishna through preachings. We want other people to serve Krishna. And if we read this Canto 9 of Srimad-Bhagavatam in this way, we will achieve 3 goals, which will prepare us to understanding of the 10th canto. The first goal is, I've already mentioned these goals at the beginning. The first goal is to increase bhakti, our devotion, especially the story about Maharaja Ambarisha and Durvasa Muni should increase our devotion, should give us understanding of what is real devotion and how real devotion is different to other false or pretentious forms of devotion. That's why Vishnu says, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. He wants to say one thing. Be who you are on your level, but be honest on your level. And very clearly have a goal you want to achieve. And simultaneously, in Canto 9 of Srimad-Bhagavatam, there are other stories which increase our vairagya or renunciation. Specifically, the key story for increase of our vairagya is Maharaja Yayati's story and his 2 wives, or his wife and his lover. As a result of this relationship, Maharaja Yayati almost lost his male power. This story is meant to give a person understanding that all other goals we may have are not worth them. There are too many difficulties. Even Ramayana, which is described in detail in Canto 9, the story of Rama is given in under a certain light, and Srila Prabhupada explains this point of view from this angle, which means even in the ideal situation, the relationship between the man and the woman cannot make them happy. This will be the source of constant trouble. Of course, we need them here in the material world. And most of people should go through this relationship. But we should understand that this is not the purpose. Sometimes, or quite often, people think that this is the purpose. And the story of Lord Ramachandra is explained here in this angle. And if we look at this all, if we live through these stories, if we try to live through these stories, we'll understand the nature of the material world very well. And we'll understand that the material world is not worth taking all these constant troubles. We'll understand the nature of love of Krishna. And we'll understand that Krishna is ready for any sacrifice for his devotees. And in 9th canto contains other stories, even the story of Lord Ramachandra, which takes quite a lot of, which is described in much detail in this canto. And the third purpose is very interesting, is to get the experience of Vijnana, the live experience of the Lord. So theoretically, how can I get Vijnana while reading? Usually, in order to get Vijnana, a person has to have his own experience. Like yesterday, Sagar Maharaj said, a very nice aphorism, I really liked it. When we don't get what we want, we get the experience. The experience is what we get when we don't get what we want. That's what he said. Very nice expression, definition of experience. So that's how a person gets Vijnana, exactly through this experience. If a person gets this coordinate system, which Shukadeva Goswami explains as a real value, and he starts to compare this value to other values which a person can get in this world, and the price he has to pay in order to get all these values in this world, he will understand, he will get Vijnana. This desire to be closer to the Lord will become natural. And the story of Maharaj Barisha is a central story, the key story in the entire Canto 9. It's about Durvasa Muni. He was on a high level, he was a Brahmana, but nevertheless it didn't help him and didn't save him because he did not have bhakti. And bhakti is a simple thing. Bhakti means to fast during Ekadashi. Like Maharaja Barisha, nothing special. Durvasa Muni probably did much more difficult austerities. So this was a small attempt to explain the meaning of Canto 9 of Srimad-Bhagavatam and why it is important to leave this Canto 9. We have to read the stories and understand the springs behind the stories correctly, why the Lord comes here to this world, why this topic of Ishanukatha is one of the most important topics of Srimad-Bhagavatam. The Lord comes to this world as avatara for his devotees, to satisfy his devotees from his love, because he wants to show everyone else how he loves his devotees. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Maharaj. We have a storm of questions from different social media accounts. I'm sorry, dear participants, that we won't be able to answer all questions, but we will cover them during our other programs. The first question is from Nadezhda. Please accept my obeisances. How can I understand what is a personality and what is energy? How can energy, in brackets, God, living being, can be a personality? Thank you. This is a complicated question which needs another lecture, but I will try to answer it in brief. But I would like to refer you to another lecture if you want to understand this deeper. I recently gave a lecture about Dashamula Tattva, especially the last lecture from this course, which I gave one Friday ago, not last Friday, but one Friday ago, where I explained specifically what how personality differs from energy. It's a very good, very important topic. Thank you for your question. A personality is the one who has the energy, and in a couple of words, the difference between the personality and energy is what grants wishes of the personality, and personality is the one who desires. So the personality has desires, and energy grants those desires. So how can we be personalities being an energy simultaneously? That's the difficulty of the question. We are the energy of the Lord, and simultaneously can we have desires? As we are an energy of the Lord is independent. He is Svatantra, and he has desires. And when the Lord desires something, his energy starts to grant those desires straight away. That's the relationship between the energy and the source of energy. The energy fulfills the desires of the one who wants. The Lord is a personality, but he is independent personality. And because he is an independent personality, the energy of the Lord always grants his desires. We are part of his energy, but we are parts of his Chit Shakti or conscious energy. We are also personalities. We also have our own desires, but we are not independent. Therefore, and everybody can have their own experience, not all our desires can be fulfilled. I'm a personality, which is nice, I can wish. However, the frustration of my life is the disappointment is that I'm a personality, but not all my desires get granted. And the solution to this paradox is, yes, I'm a personality, but I'm not an independent personality. And if I want all my desires to fulfill, there is only one way to get them. I need to subordinate myself to the desires of Krishna, and then Krishna becomes dependent on me. If I become dependent on him. This is a mutual process. And Krishna talks about this in this verse. I'm not independent. If somebody becomes dependent on me, I start to depend on him. That's what Krishna says. I can become a personality. And when a teenager starts to establish his independence, he wants to do whatever he wants. He can slam the doors or do some stupid things. Why? Because he wants to prove everyone, I'm independent. And that's how his independence reveals. I want to do and will do what I want, not what you want me to do. So a personality is the one who has the energy. We have the energy. That's why we can fulfill some of our desires, but because we are not full personalities, not independent, not initial personalities, not all of our desires can be fulfilled, but we can achieve this ideal state if we harmonize our own desires with the desires of the Lord. And that's the whole point of the process of devotional service. So thank you very much for this wonderful question. And thank you for the answer to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who has explained this in detail. Thank you. Irina is asking, when they say Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, who is meant by Sadhu? When these three things are described, first of all, the correct order, the initial order of this triad, which verify our knowledge or experience, and we can check our understanding, is formulated like this by Narottama Das Thakur in Prema Bhakti Chandrika. And the first place is Sadhu. The first element is Sadhu. Sadhu, Shastra, Guru, Vakya. That's his formulation. So the main Sadhu in this triad is what is meant here is the previous acharyas. In our case, Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. His words, his teachings, his understanding of the scriptures are the most important. If we put Shastra to the forward, then it means that our understanding of Shastras will be the main thing, but we may understand them inadequately. If we put Guru first, then there could be difficulties there too, because this way or the other, Guru may have their own conditioned nature. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur says the first is among the authorities is Sadhu. The second among the authorities is Shastra, because Guru explains both the words of Shastra and Guru. And the third is Guru. And when all three talk about the same thing, they confirm the same thing, then we can say, then we can trust them and we can trust our understanding. If this is all harmoniously correlates with these three instances, Sadhu, Shastra, Guru. So Sadhu are the previous acharyas, great acharyas, Vaishnavas, which on the example of their lives, and they've explained the Holy Scriptures and showed us how the Shastras should be practiced in our life. And they gave our Guru, the inspiration to follow this way. Thank you very much. Anastasia is asking, please advise how we overcome this Mayavadi nature. To remove this Mayavadi nature, which is constantly trying to imagine a Lord as some impersonal substance, which we don't want to surrender, we can do it through the real relationship with the devotees and through the service, through the taste of devotion in relationship. When we perform somebody's will, what's the problem of surrender? We understand that if we surrender, we will have to satisfy somebody's will, and we are afraid of it. We may think that the other person may ask me to do something I don't want to do or I don't like to do. Therefore, we avoid this and try to hide in the shell of impersonalism. It's cozy there, it's dark, I have a stalk of rice there, I know everything there, I don't need to surrender to anyone. And in order to get rid of this irrational fear, Srila Prabhupada said that we should try to surrender to a devotee. And it's not as scary as it seems. It's not painful at all. And vice versa. A person can be happy by doing this. We have to serve the other devotees, personalities. Therefore, we will value these personal relationships and will understand that there is nothing higher than the relationship, bliss through this relationship and servicing to the Lord. And we can get this experience while serving to the sadhu. The next question, what does it mean on the beginner level to give everything to God? We are not yet sadhu. How can this be done in reality? Thank you. In reality, Maharaja Ambarish explained this. He engaged all his senses in service to the Lord. Why is it so difficult for us to practice devotional service? Because the senses have the self-independence. Maharaja Ambarisha teaches us how to do it. We should engage our mind to the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, our speech in glorifying the Lord, our ears in listening to about the Lord, our eyes in looking at the Lord, the image of the Lord, our skin, which likes to touch and stroke, should be engaged in hugging the devotees in the good sense of it. In the society of the devotees, we engage with the devotees, we touch each other. The nose can be engaged in smelling the incense of the lotus. And our taste is engaged in tasting the tulsi leaves which were offered to the Lord first. And our feet and legs are engaged in pilgrimages to the holy places or temples. And the cars can be engaged in devotional service when we go to the temples every day. And our heads can be engaged. There is a good way to engage. It can be bowed down to the earth when we pray to the Lord and sing for Him. And little by little we'll develop the taste. And Srila Prabhupada used to say, he was told, I don't have any feeling, I don't like to bow my head. Srila Prabhupada used to say, you don't have the taste, but still do it. Still bow down. Similarly, we act as impersonalists and then start to serve to the Lord, to His devotees, and little by little, unconsciously, we turn into personalists. But doesn't happen very quickly. So far, we are gilded impersonalists. If we rub, the gild will rub off, but the pig skin remains. Thank you. The next question from Brajavanita. In your last lecture, you said that devotion of a disciple meant full devotion to the spiritual master. Does this mean that different devotees get different instructions depending on their conditioning? Yes, of course. Different disciples get different instructions. There is a certain layer of instructions which relate to all disciples, but depending on the nature of the disciples, they can get different instructions. For instance, Srila Prabhupada gave instructions for some devotees to paint, to write. Sattvarupa Maharaja, for instance, was given instruction to write. He didn't instruct Sattvarupa Maharaja to draw for Krishna, although he tried to draw for Krishna at some point of time in his own style. But when he wrote, he did it really professionally. Krishna gave Arjuna the instruction to fight. He didn't tell Vyasadeva to fight. He gave him the instruction to write. And Arjuna got the instruction to fight, to use his bow. So everybody gets their own service. Thank you very much. We have a couple more questions left, and we'll finish. If a person after death goes to the heavenly planets, does he automatically take the role of a demigod, or are there planets where he simply enjoys his life without earning karma? Yes, don't worry. You don't need to get the headache. You can become a Gandharva on Gandharva Loka and sing songs from the Indian films. Thank you. Question from Jagadisha. How can I measure in the great variety of activities and duties that my true desire is to get attached to the Lord? It is very hard for a person to measure this, but you can ask yourself a question and train in sincerity in the morning. You can ask yourself, how do I want to live this day? In the evening, ask the same question, how did I live this day? Did I deviate from it? How did I avoid the service? So a person needs to learn the art of introspection, asking himself questions. Why did I do this? What was my motive for doing that? For instance, we can make this question very practical. We do something. For instance, we gave a lecture or did something else, and we have or maybe we wrote an email and sent it to somewhere, or sent an email to my spiritual teacher, master, or made a post on social media. And here we can check what we really want. I immediately get a natural desire to get some kind of a reward for this. And if I'm trying to do something to get this reward, to get some compliments, or check the social media, how many likes I got for my post, or how many dislikes, then it means that what I do in reality is training my conditioned soul, which depends on remuneration. It means that all of this I did to get remuneration, and moreover, I've strengthened my habit, and I become even more dependent. Or if I sent a letter to a spiritual master, and I'm waiting, I'm trying to justify myself here because I get these letters, and I sometimes don't answer them straight away. So we are training here ourselves to not to depend on the fruit of our activities. Once again, so I've sent this letter, and the answer will come to me from Krishna. If I really sincerely asked a question, I will feel the answer in my heart. I will feel satisfaction, which will reach me. And this is the point. I need to feel when I've done something. What do I think at this very moment when I've done something? I've done something good, I've done this for Krishna, and that alone is enough for me to be happy. I don't need to be praised. I don't need to be to get the fruit of my activity. And if I've done something with the desire to satisfy Krishna, we just need to listen to our heart, because Krishna is in our heart, and we have to tune into his reaction through my heart. Is he happy with what I've done for him? And that means I have a desire to satisfy Krishna. And if I've done something and I'm waiting for some remuneration and get sad that what I've expected doesn't come, and start to prove that I'm the best to everyone else, and I'm expecting some praise from other people or blame other people, I'm so good and nobody understood me, then I'm training my other nature. Thank you very much, Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Maharaj. The multiple people are thanking you for this lecture. They would like to see you again in the marathon. And for our devotees, for our viewers, I'm saying that we will continue reading Canto 9 and then Canto 10. See you soon. All have a good day.